There is a sentence, just one sentence, and I need you to understand something before I tell you what it is. This sentence was whispered by a woman sitting alone in a small apartment in New York City in 1925. No husband, no family money, no famous name behind her. She was a woman in a world that did not believe women should teach anything at all. She had lost almost everything. Her marriage had collapsed. Her finances were in ruins. She was starting over at an age when most people had already decided their story was written. And on one particular night, in that small apartment, with the city humming outside her window and silence pressing in all around her, she whispered a sentence, not shouted it, not proclaimed it, whispered it, like a secret she was telling the universe directly, like something she had finally understood after years of searching. And by morning, something had shifted. Not just in her feelings, not just in her mood, in her actual physical reality. A letter arrived, a door opened, a connection appeared from nowhere, and she sat there knowing, with complete certainty, that the sentence had done it, that the words had moved something invisible, that the law she had been studying, testing, doubting, praying over, had finally answered her in a way she could not deny. That woman was Florence Scovel Shinn. And today, right here on Healing Love Space, I am going to give you that sentence, word by word. I am going to show you why it works the way it works. I am going to show you what happens in your brain, in your subconscious, in the invisible field around you when you speak these specific words with specific feeling. And I am going to show you exactly how to use it tonight so that you can wake up tomorrow and feel what Florence felt. That something has shifted, that something has moved, that the universe has received your signal and is already rearranging itself in your favor. Stay with me until the very end. Because the last thing I say in this video is the thing Florence herself said was the most important instruction she ever gave her students. And most people miss it completely. Let me tell you about Florence first, because you need to understand who she was, to understand why this sentence carries the weight it does. Florence Scovel Shinn was not a philosopher sitting in a university writing theories. She was not a wealthy woman with time to dabble in spiritual ideas. She was a working woman, an artist, a book illustrator who had built a quiet, comfortable life for herself and then watched it fall apart when her marriage ended in her early 40s. In the early 1900s, a divorced woman with no family money was not in a comfortable position. She was in a precarious one. But Florence did not collapse. She turned inward. She began studying the ancient laws, the laws of the spoken word, the laws of faith and divine right, the laws that mystics and prophets and teachers had been whispering about for thousands of years. She studied them not as poetry, but as science, not as comfort, but as mechanism. She wanted to know exactly how they worked, exactly what activated them, exactly what blocked them. And she tested everything she learned on herself first. Her own finances, her own relationships, her own health, her own sense of purpose and direction. And then, when she had proven the laws to herself beyond any shadow of doubt, she began teaching. She opened her home to students. Lawyers came to her, housewives came, broke artists, desperate mothers, businessmen who had lost everything, sick people, lonely people, people who had tried everything and found nothing that worked. And Florence gave them words, specific sentences, specific decrees spoken out loud with intention and feeling. And she documented what happened, case after case after case. People whose rent money appeared from nowhere the day before it was due. People whose estranged family members called out of the blue after years of silence. People whose health turned around after months of decline. People whose businesses recovered after everything seemed lost. Florence documented all of it. And in 1925, she published a small book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. A book that has never gone out of print. A book that is still read by millions of people around the world today because the laws it describes are not opinions. They are mechanics, and mechanics work whether you believe in them or not. The same way gravity works, whether you believe in it or not. Now here is what Florence discovered at the center of all of it. Here is the thing that everything else builds on. Are you listening? because this is the part that most people walk right past without realizing what they just heard. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is vividly, repeatedly spoken. Read that again slowly in your mind. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is vividly, repeatedly spoken. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetry. This is the actual operating principle of the human subconscious mind, and modern neuroscience has spent decades confirming exactly what Florence knew intuitively in 1925. When you speak a word, any word, out loud, with feeling, with repetition, your subconscious receives it as a command, not as a suggestion, not as a hope, a command, and it immediately, silently, invisibly begins to organize your perceptions, your decisions, your instincts, and your actions around that command. This means that every time you say, "I am so tired," your subconscious begins building a reality of exhaustion around you. Every time you say "nothing ever works out for me," your subconscious begins filtering your experience to confirm that story. Every time you say "I never have enough money," your subconscious begins making choices below the level of your conscious awareness that keep money just out of reach. Florence called these negative decrees, and she said most human beings are walking through their entire lives issuing negative decrees all day long and then falling to their knees at night wondering why God isn't answering their prayers. Because the prayer is being drowned out by the decree. Because the 10 seconds of hopeful asking in the morning is being overridden by 8 hours of fearful declaring throughout the day. Because the subconscious does not weigh your sincerity. It does not weigh how much you need something. It weighs repetition. It weighs vividness. It weighs the emotional charge behind the words. And fear has a very high emotional charge, which is why fearful words program the subconscious faster than almost anything else. But here is the power. Here is the thing Florence discovered that changed not just her life, but the lives of every student she ever taught. If the same mechanism that creates your prison can be reversed, if the same subconscious that has been receiving commands to keep you stuck can be given new commands, completely different commands, spoken with the same vividness and emotional charge, then the reversal is not slow, it is not gradual, it is not a matter of years of therapy and slow rebuilding. It can happen fast. Florence saw it happen in days. She saw it happen overnight. She saw it happen in hours. Because the subconscious does not argue with a decree. It does not say, "Well, let me check if that is historically accurate based on your past experience." It simply receives the command and begins building the reality that matches it. And this is where the sentence comes in. Florence Shin spent decades refining what she called the decree, not an affirmation, not a visualization, a decree. And the difference is everything. An affirmation is something you repeat, hoping it will eventually feel true. A decree is something you speak, knowing it is already true in the invisible world, and you are simply calling it forward into the visible one. An affirmation comes from a place of wanting. A decree comes from a place of knowing. Florence said this repeatedly in her work. The universe does not respond to your need. It responds to your faith, not how long you have been waiting, not how desperate you are, not how much you deserve it. Your faith, your certainty, your spoken word delivered with absolute conviction from a place of already knowing. And the sentence she considered the most powerful decree she had ever found, the sentence she gave to student after student, the sentence she whispered in her own apartment in 1925 on the night that changed everything, is this: Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate and endless supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now come to me easily, joyfully, and in perfect ways. I want to read it one more time slowly. Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate and endless supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now come to me easily, joyfully, and in perfect ways. Now I am going to break this down word by word. Because Florence was precise, every single word in this sentence was chosen with intention. Every phrase does something specific to your subconscious mind and to the invisible field you are broadcasting into every moment of your life. Infinite Spirit, you are not speaking to your bank account. You are not speaking to your boss, your circumstances, your past mistakes, or the limitations of your physical world. You are speaking to the infinite, the unlimited, the source that has no ceiling, no shortage, no restriction, and no memory of your failures. The moment you begin with these two words, you are commanding your subconscious mind to stop looking at the limited physical world and to connect with the unlimited invisible world. You are expanding the field of possibility in the very first breath. Florence said, God is the giver and the gift, and man is the receiver. Infinite Spirit is simply her way of addressing the unlimited source of all good and declaring openly, I know you are there and I know you are listening. Open the way, not create the way, not force the way, not figure out the way. Open the way. This phrase is the most powerful surrender in the entire sentence. When you say open the way, you are releasing your grip on the mechanism. You are stepping back from the exhausting human need to control exactly how the good will arrive. Florence wrote about this constantly. She called the human reasoning mind the mortal mind. And she said the mortal mind's desperate need to control the how is the single biggest block to receiving. Because when you decide in advance exactly how the money must come, exactly how the relationship must heal, exactly how the opportunity must appear, you close off every other channel through which the universe could deliver it. You narrow the infinite to the width of your own imagination. When you say open the way, you are telling the universe, I trust you more than I trust my own plan. I don't need to see the full staircase. I just need to take the first step and trust that the next one will appear. My immediate and endless supply. Immediate, not eventually, not when the timing is better, not when you are more ready. Immediate. Florence was radical about this. She pushed back constantly against the spiritual teaching that good things take time. She said divine supply has no delay unless you build delay into your decree. The moment you add someday or eventually or when the time is right, you are programming postponement directly into your subconscious. So she chose the word immediate deliberately and precisely, and endless, not enough, not a little more than I have now, not comfortable, endless. Florence refused to let her students think small. She said, God never does things by halves. If you are going to ask for overflow. Ask for abundance so complete that you have more than enough to share. All that is mine by divine right. This is the phrase that carries the deepest spiritual weight in the entire sentence. Divine right. Not what you think you deserve based on your past. Not what people told you was realistic for someone with your background, your failures, your limitations. Divine right. Florence taught that every human being has a divine inheritance, a perfect life that already exists for them in the invisible world, waiting to be claimed. She called it your heart's desire, and she said your heart's desire is not random. It was placed inside you by design, as a signal of what already belongs to you in the spiritual realm. So when you say all that is mine by divine right, you are not asking for something that might be yours if you are lucky enough. You are claiming an inheritance that has been waiting with your name on it. And the difference between those two positions is the difference between a person standing outside a house, hoping someone will invite them in, and a person standing at the door with a key, knowing the house already belongs to them. Now come to me easily, joyfully, and in perfect ways. Easily, joyfully, perfect ways. Florence was very specific about this. She believed, and she proved through her students, that your good was meant to come to you with ease. She wrote, "The path of the righteous is a plain path. There are no obstacles on the divine path. Struggle is not the price you pay for good things. Struggle is a sign that you are operating from fear instead of faith." When you add the words easily and joyfully, you are cancelling a belief that most of us absorbed in childhood. The belief that good things only come to people who suffer enough for them, that you must earn through pain, that ease is suspicious and struggle is noble. Florence said this belief is not wisdom, it is a program, and like every program, it can be overwritten. Now let me tell you about a woman who came to Florence in 1923. She had lost her business after years of building it. She had almost no money left. She was 2 weeks away from losing her apartment. She came to Florence not really believing anything would change. She came because she had run out of other options. Florence looked at her and gave her one instruction. Just one. Go home and speak this decree every morning when you wake up and every night before you sleep for 7 days. Do not change it. Do not add to it. Do not try to figure out how it will happen. Just speak it and release it. Speak it and trust. The woman did exactly that. The first 3 days, nothing visible changed. The fear was still there. The doubt was loud. On the 4th day, she almost stopped, but she kept going. On the 5th day, she received a phone call from a business contact she had not spoken to in nearly 2 years. He had an opportunity. It was as if the opportunity had been designed specifically for her skills, her experience, her exact situation. She took it. Within 3 weeks, she had more income flowing toward her than she had before the collapse. Florence's response when she heard this was not surprise. She said, of course, the law is exact. It never fails. It only fails when we fail to apply it. The law is exact. Those 4 words are the most important thing Florence Scovel Shinn ever said. Not it might work for some people. Not it works if you believe hard enough. The law is exact, like gravity, like mathematics, like every other universal law that operates without exception. You do not have to believe in gravity for it to hold you to the ground. You do not have to believe in this law for it to respond to your words. But when you understand it, when you align with it deliberately and consciously and faithfully, the results move from accidental to inevitable. Now I want to tell you how to use this sentence because reading it in a video and writing it in your notes is not enough. Florence was very clear about the practice. The decree must be spoken out loud, not thought, not whispered, spoken, with your full voice, with intention, with the feeling of it already being true, because your subconscious mind responds to sound, to vibration, to the physical act of your mouth forming the words and your ears hearing them back. Silent affirmations work to a degree, but spoken decrees work at a level that silent thought cannot reach. Florence recommended what she called the morning decree and the night decree. In the morning, before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before the noise of the day gets in, you stand if you can, you take a breath, and you speak the decree out loud 3 times. You feel it as you say it. Not performed feeling, real feeling. The feeling of already having what you are claiming. The feeling of already living in the reality the decree describes. At night, before you sleep, when the subconscious mind is most open and most receptive, you speak it again 3 times with full feeling. You plant the seed and then you let yourself sleep without trying to solve the how. And throughout the day, every time the enemy within shows up, every time the doubt whispers, every time fear tries to plant a negative decree, you return to this sentence. Fear says, I don't have enough. You decree infinite spirit. Open the way for my immediate and endless supply. Fear says this will never work. You decree all that is mine by divine right now comes to me easily and joyfully. Fear says I have been waiting too long. You decree my good is on its way. It cannot be stopped. It arrives in perfect timing. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending everything is fine when it is not. This is using the same mechanism that has been building your prison to now build your freedom. Same subconscious, same law, different sentence. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote in the final years of her life, every man has within himself the power to make his life what he wants it to be. He has only to learn the laws and apply them. You now know the law. You now know the sentence. You now know the practice. So here is your action step for tonight. Before you sleep, stand if you can. Take a slow breath and speak this out loud 3 times with full feeling. Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate and endless supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now come to me easily, joyfully, and in perfect ways. Then release it. Do not lie awake trying to figure out how. Do not check for results in the morning like you are tracking a package. Plant the seed. Water it with faith. And let the law do what the law always does when it is applied correctly. It never fails. Florence said so. And she spent an entire lifetime proving it. Now I want to hear from you. Write in the comments right now these exact words. What is mine by divine right is already on its way to me. Write it as your decree. Write it as your truth. Because the moment you write it, it is spoken into existence. It goes into the universe as a real force. If this video opened something in you today, share it with one person in your life who is stuck, who is struggling, who needs to hear that the law is exact and it never fails. You never know what one share can do. Subscribe to Healing Love Space if you have not already. Every single day, I bring you the exact teachings, the exact words, the exact laws that Florence Scovel Shinn spent her lifetime uncovering. The next video I have for you goes even deeper than today. You do not want to miss it. Until then, I want to leave you with Florence's own words. The game of life is the game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy. Choose your words tonight like they are the most powerful thing in the universe. Because Florence Scovel Shinn proved beyond any shadow of doubt that they are.